counted them twice, I don't know, but there's a big disparity on how many they found. Everybody agrees it's more than 14,000 clay tablets, well preserved. It was a virtual library. Most of this library was dealing with trade with surrounding nations. They were records. But it was very, very helpful because of the names that were given. This is a cuneiform language that they were able to decipher. They're able to read. There's experts that can read this language today. They dated from around 2500 BC. They're written in Sumerian and Eblaite, a previously unknown Semitic language. Keep in mind the Jews spoke a Semitic language, so it's similar. I guess it's like the difference between Pastor Mike Thompson and myself, or the Australians or New Zealanders and the Americans. I mean, they were dialects, they understood each other, but there were differences. It's like we say schedule, they say schedule. And we'll say program, we spell it where just it ends with an M. In England, program ends with an E. You know what I'm saying? And so there were some differences, but it was a language they could communicate with. So keeping that in mind, this discovery found more clay tablets than had been produced by all other excavations at that point. So it was just a trove of information. And of course, I'm not even sure if they've read all of it yet. But early on, they began to discover, by the way, this big discovery was in the 1970s. They found a lot of biblical writings concerning the patriarchs to be viable. They contained extensive trade records. They have the oldest reference to Jerusalem dating from before the time of Abraham, except it's not called Jerusalem. You know what it's called? Salem. What did Abraham refer to? Melchizedek is the king of Salem. That city, which is later known as Jerusalem, is mentioned in the tablets of Ebla. Documents written on these clay tablets also refer to some of the patriarchs. For instance, it mentions Abraham, Ishmael, David. Oh, in the 1800s, they doubted the existence of King David. They said he is a figment, he is a fable from Hebrew mythology. He never lived. There's no records we find of David. Then they dug up the tablets of Ebla. They found reference to David. Israel is mentioned, Esau is mentioned, Saul is mentioned. Kings are named, from which we know there were no other sources in history. Bible cities are referred to. Now here, remember I told you about the prophecy in Isaiah chapter 13? The bombshell in the Ebla tablets was when there were records of trade with Sodom and Gomorrah. I mean, that just blew them away, because keep in mind, this is from the time of Abraham. Did they still exist then? It was during the time of Abraham they were finally destroyed. So they had trade records of Sodom and Gomorrah and the other cities of the plains. They're mentioned in the same order as they are in the Bible. Sodom, then Gomorrah. Same way. It speaks of Ur as being the territory of Haran. Keep in mind it was Ur from where Abraham came from. It speaks of two Urs. Ur of the Chaldees. The Bible makes clear that Abraham came from Ur of the Chaldees, thus showing the Bible writer was aware there are two. He distinguished Abraham didn't come just from Ur, but Ur of the Chaldees, because there was a couple of cities by that name. Not only that, but it mentions the Sumerians, the Hittites, the Amorites, and the Canaanites are all mentioned in the Ebla tablets. So a great deal of authenticity was added to the Bible's credibility with this incredible discovery. Another thing that happened is they said at the time of Moses they did not have the ability to write. And then they discovered what they call the Law Code of Hammurabi in 1901 and 1902 in Susa. How many of you have heard of the Law Code of Hammurabi? Hammurabi, I've heard it said a couple different ways. It shows that the practices of the patriarchs, they were common practices. It's very similar, and even some of the laws that you find, they said Moses may have stolen his law from Hammurabi. Well, a lot of these laws were common sense. Don't murder, don't steal. I mean, does it mean that Moses copied it from someone else because it says that? I always thought that was sort of an absurd argument. Why people doubt the authenticity of the Bible when so much of it has been substantiated by archaeology? And I hope that as you read these things, your faith will grow, that when you read the Bible, you're not just reading a religious book or a collection of fables. This is, I believe, the most accurate history book in the world. And that doesn't just start after Abraham. I believe it's accurate from Genesis 1:1. And I think that should time go on, they'd be able to confirm everything that you find from Genesis 1, matter of fact, it'll all be confirmed someday, trust me, to the present day, that it is a book that is the perfect Word of God that He has preserved for us.